You too.
Can you hear me? Good afternoon. Welcome to the Planning and Land Use Management Committee. It's Tuesday, May 27th. I do know that Councilmember Weissar will not be joining us. And I understand that Councilmember Weiss is expected. So I'm not sure when, though. That's the big question. So I want to start our session, and I want to welcome you to the committee. Just a few housekeeping ground rules, if I may. When you come up to the microphone, please keep your eye on the clock. We provide 2 minutes for each speaker. So we appreciate your cooperation. I know many of you worked on really strong letters, thorough letters. But if you can get to the point of your letter in those 2 minutes, that'd be great. Because sometimes we begin reading the letter, and we're still away from our conclusion, and we miss the point of the letter. So let's get to the main points of your letter. Should you have written one, you could submit it in for the file. As you can tell, the acoustics are not the greatest in this room. And we'd appreciate if all your conversations should be taken outside. We appreciate your cooperation. When you come to the microphone, please speak into the mic so your voice will be amplified. We have several items today. The ones that have been called special are the ones that have speaker cards or items that need to be discussed by the committee. There's been speaker cards submitted to items 1 through 4. And so I'm going to group those 4 together so the speakers can speak to one of those items. So if we call your name, please tell us that there's a specific item you'd like to refer to. Please state that item, 1 through 4. Number 5, we do not have a speaker card, but as soon as I get a second in here, a committee, I'll move that we approve and refer to the city attorney in consultation with Department of Building and Safety to prepare the ordinance. As soon as I have a second, we'll do that. On 6, we have speaker cards. 7, I'll move to adopt and forward to the city council. Number 8, seeing no cards, we can approve. Number 9, we'll have to call special, since we do have cards on that one. Number 10, we have a card. Number 11, there's been a change, and I see speaker cards here, but on number 11, we are going to continue to June 17th and in council to July 2nd. So you have several folks here on number 11. Those of you that are here for number 11, since it will be continued, we're going to move the public hearing to that time. I know how difficult it is to come to City Hall and take time away from your schedule. Those of you that are here, do you feel compelled to speak today? Or would you mind waiting until it comes up for discussion on June 17th? The folks here for number 11, can you please stand? Would you like to wait, or I can give you a minute today and make that part of the record? Madam Attorney?
Excuse me, Councilman Reyes. At the moment, we don't have a meeting because Councilman Weiss isn't here, so if they're going to speak, they can't speak until we do have a quorum.
I see.
Councilmember, just so you know, in the interim, while you were announcing disposition on the items, there were at least a few speaker cards submitted on approved items number 5 and 7, or approved for action items. I don't know if you want to hear those speakers at this time, and while you're waiting for Councilmember Weiss.
Okay. So those who are here for item 11, I would have to wait till I have a quorum. If you choose to speak at that time, that's when we could allow for it. So you can have a committee. Or we can continue the whole item and expect it to come back on June 17th. So you can decide until we get a quorum, and then we'll make up our mind at that time. Number 12, we're going to continue to June 17th. We don't see any cards for that. We don't have special reports today on item 13 or 14. And we don't have speaker cards for those items either. I want to welcome Councilor Tom Labange. Councilor Labange, we're going to start tap dancing pretty soon. Let's wait for a quorum. Or you can give your presentation, or would you like to wait? It's up to you, council member.
Well, I just want to ask a question.
Please come to the microphone, identify yourself.
I know, Mr. Reyes, thank you for all the work you do on this very important committee. And our city attorney, can a chairperson appoint a councilperson to sit? So since the other people didn't show up, and then the public could be heard. I think that should be a motion, as the Sergeant of Arms suggests, because everybody comes down. I know it's difficult to get everybody here. But even I can't speak, right? I can't speak from this podium, right? Because there's not a quorum. What do we do? What's the rule on that?
Councilman, for the record, Sharon Cedar Cardenas, City Attorney's Office. If there's no quorum, the chair of the committee can hold basically a subcommittee, and then there'd be a communication from the chair indicating, what his action is on the items. The problem with the item before is there's an appeal.
I got that. Okay.
And
so
therefore, there has to be a full committee for an appeal, or the appeal has to be heard before the full city council.
I got it. So, Mr. Reyes, we're here for the issues related to murals.
Right.
And
Those can
the
go
cultural
forward.
affairs, they could go forward. So I was worried I'd be out of place. I didn't want to be out of place.
Right. Well, items 1 through 4, since they're going to be a status report in 60 days to direct to the departments, we can actually conduct the business for 1 through 4
Great.
and move on, given the bulk of the speaker cards are for those items as it is.
Great.
So we can start with those, and the action items are what we're going to have to put on hold. Should I not have a quorum, this will be a report to the council, which would require us to have another public hearing at that time.
Great.
So let's start with 1 through 4, and I want to thank you for your advocacy and being the strongest cheerleader for Los Angeles in the council. I appreciate all your energy,
Well,
sir.
thank you, Mr. Reyes, and to the planning staff and support staff here and the members of the public. Good afternoon here at the Ed Roy Ball hearing room of the Board of Public Works. One of the great things about Los Angeles, among many, is our murals, but in the years they have gone in a way that we have not been proud of because of the challenges of vandalism. Los Angeles, Mexico City, and Berlin are the 3 cities in the world that have the most murals, and murals can be absolutely inspiring and inspiring to a way that an artist will feel good about where they are, as well as the community that sees them. Murals now that are damaged by vandalism sit there, and if a mural is in this panel right here, and that whole wall may be vandalized with graffiti, when we send out our Office of Community Beautification, they only clean up where the graffiti is, and they never touch the mural. There needs to be focus on how we approach that, how we protect that, how we deal with it. And then there's also a discussion with your department on what a mural is, whether it's advertising or billboards or any of that. I'm talking about fine art. I'm talking about what you would see in a book like this that would have some of the greatest paintings, and I'll share this with you in council tomorrow so you can look at it. These are buildings. Look at that beautiful mural on the side of a building right there in the heart of Berlin, which brings art to the people. But then some people want to put a sign up there, and we don't want a sign. Absolutely don't want any billboards up there, but we want to see art protected and inspired. I'm going to ask that our great cultural affairs director, the newly appointed general manager, Olga Garay, if she could speak to this issue here, and we could continue it. I know many other people came down on this issue. We'll try to be brief because this is going to go to council for approval.
Mr. Bonds, is she part of your presentation?
Yes, she's part of my presentation
Okay.
because she is city
Please come
family. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I want to say thanks to the whole murals community that has come out Again, this is about the third or fourth time since I've been here that there's been such a large outpouring of the mural community to find what the solution is for the city of Los Angeles. I think that I can speak for all of the elected officials that I have personally met with to say that we're all in this trying to find what the appropriate solution is so that it can be positive both for the city of Los Angeles and the artistic community. Los Angeles does have a great tradition of murals, and we want to make sure that we can sustain that and sustain it legally so that it flourishes. We don't want a Band-Aid solution. We want something that can really go forward into the future in a positive manner. And we are very willing to work with other departments to try to find a solution that will get us back on the road as the murals capital of the world.
Okay. Well, thank you for your hard work. I know you're the newest kid on the block when it comes to all the new department heads, but I appreciate your energy and the fact that there's such a strong focus in creating a friendly city and a city that knows how to embrace its history and its culture through the arts. But I think part of our challenge is how do we fit into the legal parameters of this process. And I think that's going to be one of the struggles, and I know we'll find a solution for that.
Thank you, and I want to thank Mr. Labange for his leadership
Absolutely.
on this issue as well.
I think one of the things, Olga and the members, it's so disturbing to see the vandalism, and we can't deal with that of artists who've done their creative works, and we have to find a way. And I was just questioned by our fine city attorney, is the Andy Warhol soup can advertising, or is it art? And I would say maybe we come up with a thing, if there's a 5-year, if something of art, that advertising, or a Brillo pad is art, you know, depending on it, we could figure it out. But also, we need more cultural heritage involved and less building in safety, and as it relates to fine art, we know each other. I don't want you to think I'm coaxing our cultural affairs person. And I think many people who speak here today will be to the point to give you the good feedback and pulse of what the community wants to see here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Labange, for your advocacy again. Let's do this, Roberto. Can you run and give us the descriptions of 1 through 4? So that way those are on the record.
Sure.
And then we can have the speaker cards, presentations from each individual, and they can state which item they want to specify since they're all connected. Can you start with number 1 and go through 1 through 4?
Item 1, Councilman, is a motion Labange Weezer. It's asking Planning and Cultural Affairs, Building and Safety, City Attorney, CLA, to first define what a fine art mural is and to draft an ordinance that addresses the city's needs to facilitate new and preserve existing murals.
Okay.
Item 2 is a motion again, Councilman Labange Weezer. It's requesting Planning, Cultural Affairs, Building and Safety, City Attorney, CLA, to report on recommendations relative to the feasibility of establishing a process which would permit the installation of fine art murals on private property. This motion was previously heard in the Arts Committee. Item 3 is a motion Weezer Labange. It's requesting Building and Safety, Planning to cease from issuing citations or notices to comply with mural sign ordinances until the city has established a permitting process for fine art murals on private property. The motion was also heard in the Arts Committee.
And that one we will note and file.
Yes, Councilman.
Okay.
Item 4 is a motion Weezer Labange instructing Building and Safety, Planning, Cultural Affairs, and the appropriate council office when a property owner has been cited for a violation and is being requested to remove a mural from private property. The motion was also heard before the Arts Committee.
Okay. So let me take a step back for the members of the audience so that it's clear what we're doing. We just described the 4 motions that are connected with the issues that pertain to the murals and all of its dynamics. They're all going to be referred to the various departments: Building and Safety, Cultural Affairs Department, and the City Attorney's Office. As been defined by our Chief Legislative Analyst, Roberto, we're going to send a directive to have three departments look at the contents of each motion, the directive, and come back in 60 days with language that addresses the objectives of these motions. So that's what's going to happen today. So I want to make sure that we understand where we're at with the process and what we intend to do. And everything you say will be put on public record. It'll be part of the file, and it'll be also information that will hopefully facilitate the type of product that reaches a certain solution to these challenges. So that being said, we'll start with the speaker cards. If you keep an eye on the clock, you got 2 minutes. Give us your name and address, and we'll proceed from there. First, I'd like to invite Wayne Healey. I'd like to come on up. Give us your name and address, please.
My name is Wayne Healey. My home address is 3912 Bernice Avenue in Lincoln Heights, 90031. I was informed by members of the Cultural Affairs Committee of this issues, and it struck me as something that it sounded like somebody's trying to pull the end sweep on avoiding the law of the California Arts Preservation Act. That was something that's from the 70s. When we've, I might say myself and my colleague David Boteo, we have been painting in the city of LA since 1972 and before. In those days, there was not a problem, and the murals flourished. And really, we like to think that that and the movement on the West Side created this atmosphere of Los Angeles as being a mural capital of the world. But the last few years have shown little thought on that, as murals are getting more rules, and now they're in the Planning Commission, and now they're being compared to billboards. To me, the definition is very straight and simple. Billboard's up there to sell a product, an idea, a candidate. A mural is there to not sell anything except inform folks of their culture. It's supposed to be a mirror on the community, and folks that live in the area, work in the area, or just happen to see it will look and see themselves and feel good about themselves. Now we have to fight the definition of a mural as a billboard. It sounds like the old end run, and my time's about up.
Mr. Healey, first I want to thank you and Mr. Boteo for your contribution to the culture of this great city. I know the Chicano time trip meant a lot to me in Lincoln Heights. It was great to see it refurbished the past few years because of your concern for the arts and for the history. I think what you'll find, and I'm hoping to see in 60 days, clarity in that definition, so there is no end run, so that there is predictability and the level of transparency of where and how murals can be appreciated by the public. That, to me, is going to be my objective in meeting the spirit of these ordinances that have been defined by Councilman Labange and the other council members who are trying to find a solution. So I thank you for all your contributions and everything you've done for this community. Our next speaker is Nila Arslanian. I apologize. Arslanian, okay.
Good afternoon, Councilman. My name is Nyla Arslanian. I represent the Hollywood Arts Council. Our address is 6671 Sunset Boulevard in
Welcome.
Hollywood. We just celebrated this year our 30th anniversary, and like Mr. Healey just explained, we've watched as Los Angeles has become the mural capital of the world. We're pleased that in Hollywood that we do have some of our finest murals. These murals have recently been refurbished. They have not been graffitied, which is an interesting phenomenon with regard to murals. We have an Eloy Torres mural. We have Alfredo de Bituc and Thomas Sarai, the You Are the Star murals. These have gone around the world as visitors come to our city, take photographs in front of these murals, and take them home as evidence of their trip here. We strongly support the motions, and also with a bit of not quite understanding what occurred. For so many years, it wasn't a problem. A muralist would come to us, they would have done their work, they would have their design, they'd go to cultural affairs, the mural would go in front of a panel, they would look at it, they would either make suggestions, approve it, or deny it. We'd pay our fee, and the mural would proceed. What has occurred, and that this has been lumped with these super graphics, another situation that I'm happy to see that you will be addressing later on today, is a mystery of how fine art could be lumped in with the super graphics, which indeed is a serious problem and must be addressed. Please return this to what it has been, the ease, and support our artists and support Los Angeles as a mural capital of the world. Thank you very much.
And thank you for your hard work with the Hollywood Arts Council. Thank you, ma'am. Issa K. Mixon. Want me to call you later? Call me later. Okay. Ed Fuentes.
Pardon my casual look. I was out shooting murals. My name is Ed Fuentes, 201 South Santa Fe in the Arts District, where there has been more murals that have been placed up in the graffiti style that unfortunately were bullied to be taken off the walls of private companies or a private business. And what we have here is a complete mixture of what is a mural and where does it come in terms of graffiti style folk art. And again, with the idea of typography being on a mural, it becomes a billboard. But I can tell you that there is even more mixture as Spark. There is a mural at Temple and Grand that has typography as part of a mural, a digital mural at the Mark Taper Forum. And the idea that billboards may have hijacked the composition and monumental form of muralism to sell. And I'm guilty of this because I suggested it to an advertising agency who I worked for 10 years ago. But I've made amends since then. But what we really have to do in all these motions, 1 through 4, is to really consider there has to be a collaboration and conversation so we don't lose murals anymore to advertising or to taggers. That if there is just some sort of community look to see what would be put on, whether it be by spray paint or a brush, and some sort of cooperative effort. But in seeing some murals disappear since just the Barnesdale conversation that we had a few months ago, I really honestly believe that this city can figure out a way that the curators of murals are not building and planning or LAPD.
Thank you, sir. Peter Bedard. And then Eric Quayle.
Hi, my name is Peter Bedard. My address is 1239 Manzanita Street, LA 90029. I am here on behalf of the Myra Avenue Mural Project. We are a project that was started with the help of the Franklin Hills Residents Association and the Greater Griffith Park Neighborhood Council. We started about 6 years ago to work with the Thomas Starr King Middle School, and the kids have been raising money and creating murals in the neighborhood through a process where they design a mural, it gets vetted to the neighborhood. To hear that there was no process, or there is no process for having murals, is a surprise to me, because we've gone through a process of getting our murals permitted, paying a fee and going through that whole thing, pitching it to the community, to the different neighborhood groups, and actually having the neighbors vote on those murals, and the winning mural actually get done. We've been able to do murals in this city, quite large ones, for less than $3,000. I understand there's a motion to increase fees for this. it would pretty much wipe out our students' ability to keep creating. And the students, 3 students actually wrote some letters. I'd like to just read a little quote from a couple of them. One of the students, Daniel Osberto Gonzalez, says, Murals show creativity and inspiration to the people. Armin Kalajian says, while parks are usually only for children, murals are universal and can be enjoyed by many generations, young and old. Murals give streets more meaning and make them so much more colorful. We were in the process of raising funds for our next mural. We've been asked by neighbors to actually do murals on public property with the children at the school. And just to address that issue as well, it bothers me on a personal level, besides my involvement with the organization that I head up, that the city wants to define what a landlord or a property owner can do specifically on their property as far as public art.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Eric Quayle, Stash Maliski. Mr.
Good
Quayle?
afternoon. My name is Eric Kovali.
Dolly, I'm sorry.
And I'm representing the Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Los Angeles. I work with the art program at the CRA. And we are in great support of the ordinances that are the motions that are presented today. We have greatly used murals throughout our program and throughout our mission at the CRA, which is to eliminate blight in many of the economically depressed communities that we are representing. We feel that the current condition is a great hindrance on the artists, the arts organizations, and the community themselves who are interested in utilizing murals as a way to really grow within their community, create a sense of place, and to really commemorate who they are. And I feel that, and on a personal note, I live in the Westlake MacArthur Park community, which is a long history of arts programming. There's a wealth of murals in that community, and we have lots of young organizations that are interested in using murals to really grow. And I feel that a change in this ordinance that would help not only promote but preserve the murals that are there would be greatly utilized. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your advocacy. Stash Maliski, Emily Winters, and Ida Talala.
My name is Stash Maleski, and I represent ICU Art in Creative Unity. We represent an art production company that employs graffiti artists and other muralists to paint murals in scenic design. And I also am the production manager for the Boyle Heights mural program, which paints and maintains 10 murals in Boyle Heights. It was our mural that was painted out on Cesar Chavez that sort of got most of this process going, actually. And I want to commend this committee for taking up this cause, and it's a thorny issue, and I definitely appreciate it. I definitely believe that this process should be handled by arts professionals, which I believe is the Department of Cultural Affairs, and people that can navigate the nuances of these issues related to art and culture. I think it's inappropriate that building and safety is making decisions based on art and culture. I also feel like the variance process right now where murals are at in building and safety is too timely, cumbersome, and extremely expensive. It's almost $5,000 apparently to get a variance to do a mural. I think there should be no limitations on size for purely fine art murals, and I think that's important. I also want to say a little bit more, though, that I do believe that I represent the idea that we should be able to put these muralists to work, painting murals and paying themselves instead of trying to look to the city to fund mural programs, and that we can do that through businesses and corporations. And we can allow businesses to paint murals that represent the goods and services that they have in their business in a tasteful way that involves community review and city review, and that it can be a benefit for the community, a benefit for the artists, and can be funded by the corporations and businesses of the city. So essentially allow these artists to fish for themselves instead of trying to just hand them a fish every once in a while. So thank you very much, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Emily Winters and Ida Talala.
I'm Emily Winters. I'm a 43-year resident of Venice, California. I live at 730 739 Palms Boulevard in Venice. I'm chair of the Venice Arts Council, and I'm also a muralist and artist, and I was a billboard painter years ago before I retired. So years ago, billboards were not allowed to be painted on the sides of a building, and billboards were not allowed to have any writing on them, and of course that variance has changed quite a bit. But I did want to say, I agree with many of the previous speakers. I don't want to be redundant. I do appreciate your following through items 1 through 4. I will speak for the cards I filled out. But I would like to say that I was reading over the VERA Act, and I think if you looked at the California Preservation Act and the Visual Arts Rights Act, you might get some ideas on how to define what's fine art and what's advertising. One of the stipulations that the VERA Act says is not fine art is any merchandising item or advertising, promotional, descriptive, covering, or packaging material or container that's depicted is not going to be covered by the VERA Act. So I think you could probably learn a lot from reading what these acts are. And I'm wondering how, if you're going to paint out a mural that you think is illegal, why you can get by with it without reporting to the state or to the federal acts here. I also want to say that I think that if individually painted works have so much more meaning and content, and I think you can get around the First Amendment rights by pursuing things that are more done individually rather than mass-produced, such as what we find on the vinyl billboards. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Ada Talala, and then we'll have Ryan Bell.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for handling this rather touchy subject and finding a solution for this wonderful city heritage. My name is Ida Talala, and I'm with Echo Park TAP, which I founded, Trash Abatement Project, and as well as the Mural Committee of the Echo Park Improvement Association. I think that the issue of dealing with the subject of murals lies with the Department of Cultural Affairs, because murals, as we folks understand it, is that it's an art form, and it has a particular meaning as an art form within a community. So it needs to be understood and handled by somebody who truly understands and appreciates the finer points. Murals are a visual and artistic form enjoyed by the whole community and a very public art gallery. To end this is like taking out the stars in the night sky. Their value is intangible. The loss diminishes community as destruction attracts trash and visual blight. If the city fails to respect murals, our neighborhoods will be trashed even further. I believe that neighborhood councils can be very instrumental in helping the city and the Department of Cultural Affairs to maintain this heritage. And I thank you all for your time, and for the muralists who continue to work despite all the obstacles. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Our next speaker, Ryan Bell, and then David Buteo.
Hi, good morning. My name is Ryan Bell, and I'm the pastor of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Hollywood. And my church and my residents are both in the Fightin' 4th District with our council member LaBonge here. And we've spoken directly to he and his staff about our mural. We actually applied for a community beautification grant in the last cycle, and we're really excited to receive a $10,000 grant with which we have supplied other grant monies and effort to produce a mural on the freeway-facing wall of our church on the 101 freeway. And of course, we sort of innocently stumbled into this. We're not art experts. We're a church, but we believe in bringing our community together, and we actually saw the power of this mural to bring our community together around creating something that would represent the values that we all share in our neighborhood. And we had a great time doing that, only to discover that there was no way for us to actually do it now that we got funding from community beautification and community support and input. we were stuck. And so we're trying to figure out how to navigate the variance process through the planning department, and we're still a little a ways away on figuring that all out. But we're just here today to just speak in support of these motions, that the sooner that we clarify these things, the more small grassroots organizations around our city can really participate in a productive way in our community. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you, sir. David Boteo, Auburn Binkley.
I'm David Boteo. I live in Los Angeles at 4952 La Calandria Drive in El Sereno. And I wish to speak on private property and murals. It seems to me that private property is the other side of the coin to public property. And we are been very fortunate to have good money in the public sector supporting the arts, even though we don't have arts in the school anymore, that much art. But the private property is historically is always dealt one-on-one with the artist. And, you know, there's not a lot of money in mural painting. And it seems to me that we're putting all these roadblocks in the way of an artist trying to make a living. And there's a story of my first mural, solo mural. I've been in many groups, and I've been involved in murals since 1970. I went and I dealt with small clothing cleaners, and we made a deal for $300 for me to do a mural. And
was that Sloan's?
Yes.
Okay.
In East Los Angeles. And you know what? That mural has been my most popular piece. I was there painting one day, and people from France came. You know, they were all dressed up with a camera, and they had a picture of it, and they found it in a magazine, and they wanted to come and see it. And I was there, and they were so happy. But they said they didn't want to go to Disneyland with the tour group. They wanted to come, and they wanted to go see the murals of Los Angeles. And,
please continue.
And so artists are struggling in this day and age of lack of funds and jobs. Why are we putting the stumbling block and making private companies pay all kinds of money? They're going to say, no, I don't want a mural.
Thank you, Mr. Mateo. Again, I want to say thank you to you and Mr. Healey. I've got the special edition on the National Geographic that speaks to the work that you've done and Mr. Healey, and it's obvious it's world-renowned. And I think the effort of this committee and Councilman Labange is to figure out that path of least resistance that stimulates and addresses the needs that you're speaking to. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Alburn Binkley, and then Lennox Fleury.
Hi, my name's Auburn Binkley. I live at 1738 Canyon Drive in Los Angeles, area code 90028. I'm just here to ask the committee to expedite the process as much as you can. I know we have 60 days, it seems. Hopefully, very soon after that, everything will be resolved. I worship at the Hollywood Seventh-day Adventist Church with Pastor Bell, and we are stuck in a process of trying to get a mural to beautify the city. So I just ask for the process to go as quick as you can. Thank you.
Thank you. And you should know with creative tension, sometimes quick might not be the best, but we're going to do everything in our power to get a product out to you. We have Lennox Fleury and then Emily Winters.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Lennox Fleury. I live at 1738 Canyon Drive in Hollywood, California. I do not create fine art murals, but I certainly appreciate them, and I believe the councilman used the word inspiring. Thank you so much for your help in this fight. A mural is a way to represent a community's values and to inspire humanity, and I'm here to speak in support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was quick and succinct. Emily Winters and May Chin, then Barbara Burke. So Emily Winters, May Chin, then Barbara Burke.
I'm Emily Winters, 739 Palms Boulevard in Venice. I spoke before. The only thing I want to add is that I wonder where the LA Arts Commission is on this board. Why aren't they part of determining what's art or billboards? And secondly, I was working at removing graffiti from the Jaya mural, and some French tourists came up. A person with me spoke French, and some of our murals are appearing in French tourist books. Thank you.
Okay. I'm trying to keep everyone to one time, but thank you for that. May Chin, Barbara Burke, and then
Hi, I'm May Chin. I'm speaking on behalf of the Seventh-day Adventist Church of Hollywood, 1711 North Van Ness Boulevard. I'm the project organizer for the Crossroads at Hollywood mural, the mural that will be painted on the 101 freeway. I just wanted to urge that the importance of establishing a process that will be, friendly towards the art community and will not hinder the production of more fine art murals in the city. So thank you for taking on this effort, and again, thank you, Councilman Labange, for championing this effort. And that's it.
thank you, ma'am. And our speaker, Barbara Burke, and then after her, Issa, your last chance. Okay.
Barbara Monahan Burke, 4223 Wilkinson Avenue, Studio City. I'm the Studio City Neighborhood Council co-chair of the Government Affairs Committee, and I have a background in art and art history, studio art and history. But I'm speaking personally today. I know in Studio City we have an ever-increasing amount of graffiti that we paint out all the time, but we would love to have, really, really good fine art. We do have a problem to do with what is and what isn't, and what's within a specific plan or what's within our area. So it would be good to have some definitions to do with that and to be able to have the neighborhoods work with it. I think the Department of Cultural Affairs being included is essential. And I also, one of your speakers stressed that it be individual artwork, and I do appreciate that also, to show that we encourage and support the vibrancy of life in all forms within this city. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, after these three names, after Issa, after these three names, we'll cut off the public hearing. But after Issa, we have, these are just submitted. Cervantes Reina, Eloy Torres, and Carlos Callejo. Issa?
Okay, Issa K. Mexon. In listening to the conversation and the effort to define what is a
Can you
mural.
give us your address for the record, Issa? I'm sorry.
1028 and a half Laguna Avenue, Los Angeles, 90026.
Thank you.
It would seem with all the people traveling around the world, visiting great cities with murals like Mexico City, Paris, wherever, London, was there any examination of their definitions, and how did they resolve these questions so that you're not grappling with what to many people, especially the non-artist, we recognize what's art and what is selling a product, and they're quite obviously different. So don't reinvent the wheel and new definitions. The second point, I keep hearing that Los Angeles should be the art capital of the world. Why? This is a time of our history as human beings. We think internationally and globally. Artists should not be in competition. And to play on a very famous slogan, workers of the world unite, artists of the world unite, and defend your art, and think across these lines. And you don't have to be the city, Let's think of the world.
Thank you, sir. Cervantes Reina, Eloy Torres.
Hello, my name is Irena Cervantes. My address is 44091 Van Horn Avenue. And I'm really inspired to hear the words of my fellow muralists and artists and others that have come today to support murals and to really try to make this issue more clear. And I'm hoping that some kind of resolution will come out of this very complex issue. I remember when murals were also a way in which to not only inspire, but to really bridge the gaps between artists and community and youth. I think that, when we talk about murals being vandalized, we have to look at it in terms of a very broad perspective. And why is it that there's so much vandalism that's happening to the murals? I know that this is a larger issue, but it's all connected. I think we really have to understand the role that murals and artists have played in trying to really not only inspire youth, but provide skills for youth at one time. And there was a time in Los Angeles when there was a little bit more support for murals, and I think that that time is important. And I take the previous speaker's comments to heart, but I think that when we talk about Los Angeles being the mural capital of the world, which, by the way, I believe right now Philadelphia is now the mural capital in the world because of the kind of funding that the city is putting into not only the artists and the murals, but also the youth and how they have that partnership going. And so I think that's, not necessarily a matter of competition, but how can we really support the arts? How do we support our youth? How do we support the muralists? And so I think it's very important to see this as issues that are connected, and there's so many resources in this room today. I'm sure that some solutions can come up. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Eloy Torres and Carlos Callejo. That should close the public hearing.
My name is Eloy Torres. I'm an artist, muralist. I'm at 1448 and a half Silver Lake Boulevard. Obviously, I'm in agreement with what everybody has said. I think one of the things that I kind of wanted to bring out is my wife and myself, we work with young people, continuation education, kids. And one of the things that inspired me to become an artist or a muralist was a mentor. And if you create some kind of a program to work with these kids and get them out there to do murals, hire people, streetscapers, myself, other artists that are here, and work with the youth. When I did a mural in France in 1992, I worked with this young kid, his name was Tariq, and he was from North Africa. But they were from a low-income community, and Tariq had to be this tough guy so that he could deal with his community. But Tariq would always come to me and ask me, well, you're from LA, LA's good, California, the beach, da-da-da-da-da. But when he saw where my heart was coming from, that I really wanted to do something with that community, the word started to get out. Because as you know, there's a lot of issues between the Algerians and the French in France. But as he spread the word out, he started to tell these kids, look, give this guy a chance, because they were not very receptive to me. Give him a chance, find out where he's from, or what he's about. And I think what I learned from that is the same. We can apply that here in Los Angeles, because I think, as Irena was saying, if you can reach certain kids, they get the word out about murals and fine art, and I think that would maybe address the idea of vandalism. So anyway, that's kind of mostly what I wanted to say. And okay.
No, I want to thank you, Mr. Torres.
Right,
thank you. Thank you, sir, for that input. Carlos Callejo.
Good afternoon. I'm not going to say too much. I think everybody said the stuff that I wanted to say, but basically, I just wanted to kind of briefly mention, that I'm also an artist, muralist. I've been a muralist since 1969. Started my work in LA, and I wanted just to say that I've been gone for 20 years. I just recently came back. I've been abroad and doing murals basically, and what's opened the doors for me is actually the experience that I had in Los Angeles, and so we need to not undermine that. I think that, and I could go on in terms of how many experiences from Seattle, Washington to Managua, Nicaragua to Italy. Being an LA muralist in some time opened those doors. So again, I just want to encourage to support those efforts, and also to, as well as being artists, a lot of my fellow artists being around the communities, they have become not only muralists but also public art advocates. So in the efforts of trying to resolve and make resolutions, I would encourage that their input be part of that process. Thank you.
And welcome back, Mr. Callejo. Welcome back. Okay, that closes the public hearing. Mr. Labange, council member.
Mr. Reyes, and thank everybody for coming down. I think it's real simple. We want building and safety to determine that ceiling is safe. But that art is up at that ceiling should be determined by cultural affairs. This is what is real simple in the whole deal. And We want our city attorneys to be like track stars, jump over hurdles, and get to the finish line for us, as you always do, in trying to find a way to solve this problem. Because what was so fun to hear everyone talk, and I like to use the word fun, is when they talked about the expressions of someone from France coming up to you as you walk, which is absolutely fantastic. There was someone from Austria on Main Street on Saturday. They were coming to look at the tower at City Hall, because in a book it says you could come here. That is important to have people discover our city, as you're so prideful for. As chairman of the Arts Committee, I'm going to look for our Cultural Affairs Department to stand up and tall on this. We'll work with your departments any which way possible. And if anybody would like to continue this conversation, I'll be in the hallway, because this is very important to me, because it saddens me that Los Angeles gets trampled by vandalism and art gets destroyed. And then it saddens me that we get complicated with the bureaucracy. And Building and Safety wants to make sure buildings are safe. They want to leave the art critics and art professionals to be such. That being said, I thank you, Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Labange. Again, I thank you for that hard work and your stewardship there, Councilman Labange. On items 1 and 2, what we'll be doing is we'll be referring these items to the Planning Department with the assistance of the Department of Building and Safety and Cultural Affairs and the City Attorney. We'll ask for a report in 60 days. And again, the objective would be for an ordinance to be revised for mural sign definition and a streamlined process that is content neutral. So again, it's about the wheres and the hows. So that would be items 1 and 2. So we'll ask for a report back in 60 days. Correct? Now, item 3, we'll note and file, given that number 3 is addressed in items 1 and 2. Item 4, I'd like to take an action to approve and refer to the Department of Building and Safety, but I need a council member for that?
No, Councilman, actually, you could
Okay, so as chair, I can approve and refer to Department of Building and Safety. So that's number 4. So that takes care of all the main action items that I believe was connected with the work and trying to find a solution with being a friendly city for murals and learning how to preserve murals for the future. I again appreciate all the efforts from the artists, the art community. I think you do a lot for our city and preserving our history and looking at inspiration for our future. Thank you very much. If you're going to exit, please leave so quietly so we can move on to our next items. Thank you for coming to City Hall. Roberto, what other item can I address without a colleague, or should 5? Okay. You want to speak to number 5, please? Go ahead.
Item 5, Councilman, is a Weiss, Gruel, Rosenthal, Garcetti motion. It's requesting the city attorney to prepare an ordinance to create a $2,500 per day penalty for violations of the municipal code related to illegal super graphics.
Okay, we will approve and refer to the city attorney, again in consultation with the Department of Building and Safety, to prepare the ordinance.
Correct.
Is that correct, Mr. President?
Councilmember, I show that you did take that action, but there are speaker cards. I think you were going to make a determination if you want to hear the speakers there right to your...
There's a card on number 5?
Yeah, there they are.
Oh, I didn't mark it down. Okay.
No.
We have 3 cards here. I apologize. Marilyn Cohen, Marilyn Tusher, and then Miss Arslanian. Ma'am.
Hi, I'm delighted to know that it's that apparently it has been approved. That's my understanding. Is
Actually, we're referring it to the departments so they can begin work on it.
Oh boy. Okay. My name is Marilyn Cohen. 1906 Prosser Avenue, LA 90025. Perhaps we should title this Ode to Greed. Our community has been overwhelmed by a pernicious new phenomenon known as the supergraphic. They are graphic monstrosities, and the only super thing about them are the enormous cash infusions to building owners willing to treat the city codes with contempt. The issue before you is the illegal installation of mammoth advertising signs, many stories high, on the sides of some of the tallest buildings in our community. The fact that they are not legal has not stopped these scofflaws. They install them, thumbing their collective noses at the city, knowing that they can endlessly delay the removal of the signs by dilatory legal and administrative actions, all the while collecting huge fees from the advertising companies and their clients. How they must be laughing at our inability to make them conform to the laws of the city. We urge you to take a stand for the residents of Los Angeles and require their compliance. We urge you to adopt this recommendation to impose fines of $2,500 per day. These serial offenders must be given a strong incentive not to break the law. They are illegal signs, they have no required permits and no approvals. The media companies and the building owners must be told in no uncertain terms that the residents of the city do not want these signs, which are now mushrooming throughout our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker is Marilyn Tusher.
Thank you very much. My name is Marilyn Tusher. I'm with Westwood Garden Civic Association in Rancho Park. I'm here representing myself. I live at 2557 Midvale Avenue in Rancho Park. I know you've probably received my letter of a week or so ago regarding 3 items that were actually to be on the agenda today. And I just came down here to offer support in regard to the motion that is before you now, and that you've referred to the city attorney, item number 5, regarding the super graphics. These signs that stay in place for months on end, and unless shamed by a televised news conference to have them removed, are an affront to our communities. And as you well know, we all oppose them. So I thank you very much for the time. I also wanted to speak on item number 6, which I'm not sure what your action was before you talked about having speaker cards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon again.
Nyla Arslanian, President of the Hollywood Arts Council, 6671 Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. As you know, I came down to address the issue of murals, but as mystified as I was as how we got to that point on this particular issue, I'm very pleased to see that the council members have taken this under consideration. We have a sign district in Hollywood, but still we see illegal super graphics, and in particular illegal super graphics on historic buildings that these advertisers and building owners are installing, and as the lady before us said, literally thumb their nose to the community. So I just wanted to speak in favor of this motion and to acknowledge our council members for bringing this forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Barbara Burke. And then we'll have the council office representative, Lisa Trifoletti, which I hope doesn't mean he's not going to come, but we'll find out.
Barbara Monahan Burke, 4223 Wilkinson Avenue, Studio City, member of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, and actually doing work of the Government Affairs Committee here today because we do work with signs and billboards and illegal ones. But speaking personally because this came up so quickly. But as of this weekend, our Land Use Committee counted on Ventura Boulevard alone within Studio City 17 super graphic illegal signs. So that's just in Studio City 17 on the boulevard, and we didn't count the rest of the city. So we are really dramatically affected by this, and I personally think to put a monetary per day penalty of $2,500 is terrific. Maybe they will finally start listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. I just want to let Kevin Kuzma, I know you're here for item number 8, that we've already acted on that item, so I don't want to keep you waiting. For item number 8, Kevin Kuzma. So just to make you aware of that. Okay, back to this item, Ms. Trefoletti. You know, it's really great to see you, but does that mean we're not going to see your boss?
Lisa Trifoletti on behalf of Councilmember Jack Weiss. Good afternoon. As you know, Councilmember Weiss has been a champion of fighting against billboard blight, and he is very anxious to see the inspection program and the inventory program get off the ground, and wants to do whatever the city can do to discourage the increase in illegal signs, including super graphics. That's why we looked at how other cities like San Francisco are imposing civil penalties. We want to have a civil penalty similar, and I just want for the record to ask for some clarification from the city attorney, because it's our understanding that the municipal code does allow the city to exact a $2,500 a day fine when you have a code violation, and it was unclear whether or not we needed to draft an implementation ordinance or if we can go out and start imposing those fines tomorrow. I just wanted to ask that, and also was wondering if it was possible, if we did have to come back, to see, the success of other cities like San Francisco that are out there doing that kind of work now. If the CLA could potentially be some assistance to see if we needed, if they've had success. Thank you.
Okay, well, I guess you didn't really answer the crucial question, Ms. Trefoletti. Do we expect him or not? He's coming. All right. That way I don't have to keep doing the soft shoe here. Thank you. So, Madam Attorney, will direct this to your office.
Excuse me, Councilman, I would suggest that since we have a provision in the municipal code currently, that what you should do is refer it to the departments of planning and building and safety, and with the assistance of the city attorney in looking at implementation and whether any additional ordinance changes need to be made.
Now, would that answer the question from Ms. Trefoletti, if they can start imposing that as soon as the council decides, or do we have to wait to make sure that additional amount is put into the books?
Well, first of all, we currently have the ability through the court system to ask the court to impose fines up to $2,500 each day to do that.
You can do that now.
Yes, that involves going to a court, though. If we're looking at something where the city itself is imposing the fines, then with the help of the CLA, we could look into what other cities are doing as to an administrative procedure that they would have for the city to then levy those fines.
We can let that be known to those companies that have them illegally. Okay. So hopefully you'll get the word out there and we'll get some reaction, especially along Ventura Boulevard, if indeed we can cite them as soon as possible.
Just for further clarification, then the referral would be to see if there needs to be a mechanism for the city to impose the fines as opposed to going to the court. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Any other items I can address without a quorum?
I believe number 6, Councilman. 7 and 9.
Okay, so let's keep going with number 6.
6 is a revised report from Building and Safety in response to a motion Wise Rosenthal as it relates to off-site signs in the city.
Okay. Have a staff report on that? Please, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Hector Buitrago. I'm the Chief of the Code Enforcement Bureau of the Department of Building and Safety. This is a follow-up report to a report that we presented before, and it's actually a two-part report. One reports on the number of signs that have made use of digital technology, and the second part of the report is a status of the off-site sign periodic inspection program. As far as the digital enhancements, we have issued some permits pursuant to the settlement agreements for both Clear Channel as well as CBS. For Clear Channel, they have constructed, with permits and inspections, 29 permits have been approved, and CBS has constructed 3 of them. And these are, again, signs that have been inspected and approved and have all the proper permits. Clear Channel has another 9 permits in the works. They're either under construction or at some point in the plan check process. And CBS has 5 of these permits in the process. They have also pulled some permits for demolition of signs as they agreed to in the settlement agreements. And those numbers are, I believe it's 16 for Clear Channel, and I'm sorry, for CBS. Can't find that number. And 5 for Clear Channel. And again, these are with permits, and that work has been approved. The second part of the motion requested Building and Safety to prepare a report on the status of the off-site sign periodic inspection program. And to give you a little bit of background, the program was approved by ordinance effective on September 13, 2002. At that time, LADBS felt that the most efficient way to carry out this program would be through one citywide block-by-block survey of the city.
And LADBS, just for the audience, is Department of Building and Safety.
Yes, the Department of Building and Safety, also known as LADBS. And we estimated that there are about 10,000 of these signs out there, both legal and illegal.
10,000?
The purpose of the survey was to, first of all, establish a database of what signs are out there that have permits, and also to get an assessment of their legality, whether they were built with permits or not, and whether they were structurally were sound, and whether in those cases where permit was obtained that the sign as existed complied with the terms of the permit. Again, at that time, Building and Safety did an analysis, a fee analysis, and the fee was $314 per sign per year for each sign, to pay for the survey and all the work involved. As a result, so the ordinance passed and we started the program, and the work commenced. We hired about 13 inspectors, and the work was actually started, and we were actually conducting surveys. About 6 weeks later, after the ordinance passed, there was an injunction from the court that halted the program, so we had to stop. So in time, all these inspectors were absorbed by other operations, and the program essentially, for the time being, died. As a result of the lawsuit and other lawsuits that were subsequently filed, there were settlement agreements that were negotiated by the city attorney and subsequently approved by the city council and the mayor. These settlement agreements were for 4 companies, for Vista, Clear Channel, CBS, and Regency. The last one of these settlement agreements was approved on March 9, 2007, and this was to Regency Outdoor. The fee that was negotiated in those agreements was $186, but now it's for a 3-year survey, no longer an annual inspection, but over a period of 3 years. The amount of the inspection of the cost per sign for the sign companies was arrived on the assumptions that we had about 10,000 of these signs out in the cities, and that also that these sign companies would provide the Department of Building and Safety with a list of their signs and also permits, thereby reducing the amount of work, which justified a lower fee, because we did not have to look for permits. And also, like I said before, the program was designed on a 3-year cycle. Again, that fee, the $186 fee, was calculated assuming also that the department would be doing one survey all at once, block by block of the entire city. The four companies for which there are settlement agreements own about 2/3 of the signs, about 6,700 of them. There's still 3,300 signs out there that are owned by other companies or individuals. Those companies do not have a fee. And actually, the ordinance that was passed in 2002 contained a fee, but that was only good for that 1 year. So what that means is that for us to inspect the remaining 1/3 of the boards, of the billboards, we have to do a new ordinance. To do the new ordinance, we have to establish a new fee. Well, we have been busy with the CLA and the CAO and also with the help of the city attorney. And on last Friday, we submitted a very comprehensive fee analysis to the CLA and CAO for their review and approval. Now, once that fee is approved, then we can move on with the next step, which would be the writing of the ordinance. Now, once the ordinance is written, and again, the ordinance would be to cover those companies that don't have settlement agreements, then theoretically we will have 100% of the signs, 2/3 of them covered by settlement agreements, 1/3 of them covered by the ordinance, and then we can implement the program. That is on the assumption that there is no new lawsuits filed, which there are none right now to my understanding. So, once all these things happen and, we're working very hard to get it all done, then we will be able to implement the program.
And I'm venting here a little bit, so bear with me. But as a council member, I was in the council for 2 years before we got to 2002 to put this even in action. Once we started going down that road, this lawsuit freezes everything. So we had inaction for about 4 years, maybe?
Yes, actually, since 2002.
So it's now 2008. 6 years later, we still see more billboards, and we don't see any real reduction in the visual blight. Our use of technology. A few months ago in this committee, we were provided building and safety with the ability to use new technology where you can literally take a picture of a parcel to a very fine level where you can actually see new structures on lots. Why aren't we using that technology instead of spending hours driving through the city with a lot of gas and a lot of time using technology to zero in on these structures and have that capacity given technology? Are we thinking that way yet?
In 2002, I don't think we were at this point in terms of technology, but I understand what you're saying today, and we can certainly use that, but only to a limited extent, because the permits and the conditions under which permits are issued are very accurate. So a 1 foot difference in location of the sign one way or the other could be a difference between that sign being in compliance or not. Whether there's spacing, there are spacing requirements. There's issues dealing with the orientations of signs, whether the one is one-sided or double-sided, whether the sign may have been increased in size through the years.
So these are structural observations that can be made with these photographs. I mean, these are distinguishing characteristics of a lot that you can literally see from point A to point B. Again, if you have a permit in front of you that says the structure was allowed on this corner of this size or these dimensions, and you take a picture of that lot and you see that there's a structure that's different or a different location, it's illegal. I mean, can we move there?
We will use technology to its fullest extent, but again, we still have to be out there. We have to be able to look at the sign and to make an evaluation for structural soundness and for compliance, measurement of the height, measurement of the dimensions. I don't think technology with aerial photos, I don't think that will help us. Aerial photos will help us in establishing a location, an approximate location, and I've tried to do that in the past, and it's not foolproof. Sometimes the pictures are not very clear, sometimes there's a lot of brush. It is hard to tell, but we will use technology to its fullest extent.
it's not to beat up on the messenger here. That's not what I'm trying to do here, but I'm trying to get to some reality checks. The digital technology on billboards, have we made any headway as to the level of illegal digital billboards on existing billboards?
Actually, we know that there is quite a number of illegal signs out there, and the sign companies have conceded to that. For example, Vista has agreed to remove 500 signs which they believe don't have permits.
Can you get us a report that just tells us exactly where you're at? I mean, there was a verbal report you gave us right now, and I appreciate it. But is there a way to document what has been done, what's been accomplished, and what needs to be done? Is there some way to just see it on paper, just to kind of establish a chapter, a milestone, as to the progress of this city when it comes to enforcing the law in regards to illegal billboards? Is there a way to establish that and have that pivotal point to say, we started in 2000, it's now 2008, we've had all of these actions taking place, we've had X amount of dollars pumped into the bureaucracy, the city family. What did it do? I mean, what did we end up producing? How did we implement the law? It's no secret that there's a certain perspective or should I say this? I'm trying to be diplomatic here, but there's a certain assumption being made that there's a reason why we're so lenient with billboard companies. And I won't go there. But our actions speak louder than words. Is there a way to determine and to indicate that this city is being accountable to its constituency, the citizens here, and that we produce something? Is there something you can show us on a map that shows that type of progress?
We prepare a report which I understand was not available until today, so you probably haven't had a chance to read it. But remember that we started the program originally in 2002 immediately.
Yes.
We were stopped by order of the court 6 weeks later. The last settlement agreement was not approved until March of 2007. So most of that time has been in the courts.
But we had inspectors before these lawsuits. We had inspectors before all this started hitting the radar. We were doing something before that, weren't we?
We were doing only as we continue to do, all complained on a complaint basis. And of course, they're inspecting the new signs and work for which permits are obtained. But any complaint that comes with the billboard, we address it, through the years up to today. We continue to address it on a complaint basis.
As bleak as that picture may look, I'd like to see a map with some verbiage on a report that tells us where we're at. We just need to see what is happening and just either how out of control it is, how abusive these companies have been, or it'll also show how much support you need as a department to do the job. I mean, we can look at it both ways. And I think it would help you in the long run. Now, you have a whole array of advocates out there and council members who have made this an issue, that they are concerned. And there's other council members who want to work with this dynamic so it can create community benefit, as controversial as that might be for some. But we need to know where we're at. Can you produce that map?
I'll give it a shot. I'll be working very closely with your staff to try and come up with something that what you're looking for.
Because there has to be a way to understand where we're at or what we don't have. But I think it's 8 years now. And I just feel like we've been running in mud. I mean, we're just not moving anywhere. There's no traction. And it's frustrating. And I know it must be frustrating for you too.
Exactly.
I know that. So, again, we're not beating the messenger here. I know you're trying the best of what you have. But we should know exactly what we're up against. And in that time frame, in that report, as you explained today, we did X amount of work during this time. The court injunctions followed. and this is what we have been unable to do. This is what we can do, as you explained, complaint-driven. Maybe we just need to refocus on how we approach that. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next item, Roberto.
Actually, Councilman, you need to take an action on this item.
Okay, so this is the one where we instruct Department of Building and Safety.
Actually, Councilman, sorry to interrupt you. It's directed for the CAO with the assistance of the CLA to look at the fee analysis.
All right, so CAO and the city attorney.
CLA, Council. And
CLA.
city attorney, obviously.
And CLA. Excuse me. To prepare an analysis of the fee program for off-site signs. Correct?
Yes, Council.
Analysis.
Okay, I'm jumping the gun here, folks. I know we have quite a few speaker cards. Roberta Dax Rendenau, then Emily Winters, and then Stash Molesky. I'm sorry. 6 is Roberta Dax Rendenau and Emily Winters. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Roberta Dax Rindano. I live at 3461 Bonnie Hill Drive in the Hollywood Hills, 90068. My house overlooks Barham and Cahuenga, which is a rated F as in fail intersection. This is where CBS Outdoor has modernized the billboard into a digital billboard. There's nothing modern about it. It is new. It is $500,000 new. This sets off a glare at night that has now become part of our lives, not only my family's, but hundreds of other homeowners in the Hollywood Hills. We have spoken with CBS executives after telling them that their outdoor media, they claim to be the worldwide outdoor media experts, they're now in our homes, not out of our homes, because that's what billboards are supposed to be, out of home. They're now in our homes. What I'm asking you to do here today, I know it's a big subject, you hear about these digital boards, they're coming into your neighborhoods all across LA. If they can put it into our neighborhood, which is a residential neighborhood, this is not Sunset Strip or Ventura Boulevard. We have high buildings that would cut it off so it wouldn't affect people's homes. This is coming into our homes. I have to keep my shutters closed in my bedroom. Other people also have the light and glare coming right into their homes. And this is a digital board. There's animation on it. It's Disney. I guess we should be thankful it's not a gentleman's club, so we see other parts jiggling. But anyway, it's very serious. This settlement was made with no oversight that the council approved based on the city attorney's settlement with these billboard companies. There's no, can I continue?
Please finish.
There's no oversight in terms of input from the community, input from the neighborhood councils, because these are affecting our lives. This isn't just, and let's be clear, I am not, my neighbors, we are not anti-billboard people. We are not activists, just want to take down everything. Billboards have their purpose. They are to inform, they're to entertain. We love the Disney billboard there all through the years. What this is now, this is an entirely different animal. This is affecting our lives.
Thank you, ma'am.
There was no oversight based on this with building and safety
Thank you.
or anything else.
Thank you. We heard your point. Thank you, ma'am.
Am I done?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Stash Molesky.
Thank you. I'm Stash Molesky, 2554 Lincoln Boulevard, number 162, Venice, California, 90291. I'd like to take a look at this issue in relation to items 1 through 4, which we were talking about related to muralists in this city, and also the relation to graffiti vandalism in this city, and that I think that these digital billboards are a blight on our community, and I think that they're distracting for drivers, and that I think it sends the wrong message to muralists, and to that we allow these billboards, digital billboards, to go up with no review of the content at all, and allowing them in these places where we would never allow a mural, a fine art mural, and that it just doesn't seem fair. And to also only allow these 4 companies to do this. I mean, we could be paying artists to do hand-painted advertisements that are tasteful, that are reviewed by the community, that are reviewed by the city, and would better the community. And I think people wouldn't be up here saying how much they hate them, and we'd be putting artists to work. Yet we can't even apply because it's through this legal settlement, which only allows 4 companies to pursue these type of agreements. And I think that if that's where the anger comes from the artists, and that's where the anger comes from the graffiti vandals in the city. And I think that it's something you should look at in this context. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Marilyn Tusher. Tusher passes. Marilyn Cohen. And then Barbara Burke.
Marilyn Cohen, 1906 Prosser Avenue, LA 90025. As the Vice President of Westwood South of Santa Monica Homeowners Association, I am representing the owners of over 3,800 homes. Our community has strongly expressed their opposition to the proliferation of billboards. Perhaps the billboard inspection program and inventory program should be renamed the LA Dodge and Delay Program. We have appeared at hearing after hearing for years in an attempt to get the city to abide by its own laws. Every time we get close to the tiniest victory, that of simply getting an inventory of the billboards, the most basic requests run into the brick wall of the city attorney's office, saying that they have to research a point, and then the request simply dies. What does it take for the city to hear the clear sentiments of the people that we are disgusted by the visual pollution of the billboards? Those billboards are little more than paid graffiti. We find it appalling that the city is dragging its feet and seems to be serving its true master, the billboard industry enforcers. A unit was established at Building and Safety to enforce the law, but litigation and dilatory processes have stopped all enforcement activity. We have the laws, we have the tools. What our city lacks is the will. Please send the message loud and clear that everyone is equal under the law and that the law clearly demands an inventory of billboards so that we can begin to determine how many signs were illegally installed or illegally enlarged. This information must be available and accessible to the public online. I would appreciate it if you could ask Building and Safety, the Building and Safety folks, have those 4 companies provided the city with the list that was supposedly negotiated? Have they provided them with the permits that supposedly was negotiated? I would like to know, in other words, as you would, I appreciate all your words because it really confirms everything that we've been here at hearing after hearing to say. So I would really like to know, what's the status? Is there an inventory? Because I think they've really been dodging it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Barbara Burke.
Councilman Reyes, I'm Emily Winters. You read my name earlier, but you didn't call me to the microphone.
Apologize. Go ahead.
Shall I do it now?
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. I'll be very brief. I wanted to say that the Coastal Commission. Pardon me?
State your name.
My name is Emily Winters. I live at 739 Palms Boulevard in Venice. I'm the chair and founder of the Venice Arts Council and a muralist and an ex-billboard painter. I wanted to say that the Coastal Commission has a ruling where we're not supposed to have any billboards between Lincoln, west of Lincoln to the ocean, and that's been violated over and over again with hanging vinyl and so forth. So what we do with the tagging on the murals, at least with my murals, I take the tagging off right away, and the tagging is less and less. I think if you get on these people to not put these billboards up or find them and get rid of them, they will quit doing it, and you have to enforce it. You're painting out murals because they don't have a so-called permit, but it doesn't seem to be working for billboards. I agree with the previous speakers and what they've had to say, and that's all I have to say for now, and thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Apologize for the oversight. Ms. Barbara Burke.
Barbara Monahan Burke, 4223 Wilkinson Avenue, Studio City. I'm speaking personally right here, even though I do a lot of work with the Neighborhood Council on billboards. I would want to just cover a few things and not be repetitive here, but we can check of billboards in Studio City. We've got at least 57, and many of those are double-sided. We didn't count the double sides. So we have our share, that's for sure. What's happening in Studio City and along the Ventura-Cahuenga corridor specific plan is that the digital billboards are trying to override the specific plan. So this is a huge problem. And the neighborhoods really don't want, just like Ms. Dock said, Roberta Dock said, these are disastrous, coming right into people's homes, the light and everything. And there's a case going through the South Valley Area Planning Commission of a hearing which I was at a few weeks ago, and it's been held over until toward the end of August. And they're doing an EIR and all to do with these billboards, because the more we look at this specific plan, the two things do not jive at all. And beyond that, it just does not look like these are good for the environment, the general environment for people. So there are a lot of facts being pulled out to do with that one, and I thought you would like to know that. We would like to know, does the city and the neighborhoods, do we have any legal options, to not go along with what was created here as a pretty darn disastrous agreement? And if some council members want this in their areas, that's okay. But even when I go to visit my son down in San Pedro, there are, I think it's on the way to there that I saw one time. It was so I didn't realize it was going to be there, and it was so distracting that I really think it was dangerous driving. So I just wanted you to know that. And the two lists I referred to, I will mail you a copy of these so that you know, to do with the Boulevard and Studio City. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. Okay, I believe that concludes public hearing on item 6. The action would be that we instruct Department of Building and Safety, with the assistance of CAO, CLA, and the city attorney.
Actually, Councilman, to clarify the issue, Building and Safety will provide the data to the CAO, CLA. CAO will conduct the fee analysis with our assistance.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
I was going there. That was my next clause. Okay. So that's number 6. The next item that we can move on without a council colleague. Number 7.
And 9.
We do have cards on 7.
Right, you do have cards?
We have 2 cards on item number 7.
It's a motion.
They were submitted late.
Okay, it's a motion, Weston Weezer, it's directing planning to initiate an SUD for the Koreatown neighborhood.
Okay, so we have the staff on that one, please.
Actually, it's a motion, Councilman, so it would be a referral to the council.
Okay.
My exact words.
Okay. So that is a directive. And so let's have our speaker cards. We have 2, Stash Maliski and Marilyn Cohen. Item number 7.
Thank you again, Stash Molesky, 2554 Lincoln Boulevard, number 162, Venice, California, 90291. I'd also like to take a look at this in terms of relation to murals and muralists in this city. In terms of creating a supplemental use district, I think is a potentially a good idea if there's a community that it wants to allow additional signage in their community. That might be appropriate, but I think it's completely unfair to only allow 4 companies which are being rewarded for bad behavior, basically to be the only people to produce these signs. Because if the supplemental use district only allows those 4 companies that you mentioned to participate in painting these signs, and that means that small companies or young artists that could feed their family painting these signs through the permit system are unable to compete. And so once again, we're at a situation where we're not supporting the muralists and the artists of the city, and what we are supporting big business. We're supporting CBS and Clear Channel Outdoor, when we could be going through a community process where these ads are reviewed by the community, the signs are reviewed by the community, they're reviewed by arts professionals, and painted by actual artists. Thank you.
Just for the record, Madam Attorney, are we restricting this to 4 companies, or this is a special district that allows for an applicant to come in, not restricted to 4 companies?
For the record, Sharon Cedar of Cardenas. This would be the recommending going to staff to prepare a supplemental use district, which would then create special regulations for signage within its boundaries. It's not limited to any one company. It's open to all. It would just establish different standards than what is in the citywide sign ordinance within the boundaries of this area.
I just want to clarify that for the record. Thank you. Okay, next speaker is Marilyn Cohen.
It's me again. Marilyn Cohen, 1906 Prosser. Hi, Jack. And Los Angeles 90025. As the Vice President of Westwood South of Santa Monica Homeowners Association, I am representing the owners of over 3,800 homes. Our community has strongly expressed their opposition to the proliferation of billboards. Let me begin by asking you a question. When you visit any place celebrated for its beauty, Santa Barbara, Marin County, Paris, do you stop and think, boy, what this place needs is a bunch of billboards? The guardians of those places have taken seriously their responsibility to be shepherds of the essential quality of those locales, and they have become the timeless reminders of our higher and better selves. If we succumb to the bright lights, big money siren call of the billboard industry, what do we leave for our children? What do we leave for visitors to the natural beauty of this land? What do we leave for residents seeking some humanly scaled quality of life? Are the people of Los Angeles telling you that our role model should be the Las Vegas Strip? If preserving the natural beauty of this city does not appeal to your sense of responsibility, perhaps the issue of safety may tweak your conscience. The billboard industry is raking in revenue beyond their wildest dreams with the new technology of digital and video billboards. Contrary to the self-serving studies commissioned by the billboard industry, as noted in the Christian Science Monitor, the very reason these signs appeal to advertisers is the reason they pose a danger on the roadways. The billboards are designed to distract. A study on driver behavior released by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration last April showed that distractions in which a driver spent more than 2 seconds looking elsewhere than the road contributed to 22% of overall accidents. Principal Transportation Engineer for LADOT, Sean Skian, has noted brightly lighted and changing messages in the sign may cause momentary motor distractions. Is it okay if I just finish for a moment?
Please finish.
Distractions if they are within their field of view. These distractions may in turn cause motorists to misjudge traffic conditions or misinterpret a traffic signal indicator, which could result in unsafe traffic behavior. The Outdoor Advertising Act further regulates signs within 660 feet of a highway and within 500 feet of an interchange or intersection.
Thank you, Ms. Cohen.
I'm sorry?
Thank you.
I can't finish?
No, it's got the 2 minutes. Thank you. That's why I was trying to get you to do that.
I'm
Let me
sorry.
look at your letter.
There were important safety issues.
Okay,
but I'll-
thank you. Just please submit it for the record, please. Thank you very much.
Can you just tell us what the first gentleman said, because I didn't understand the notion where something was referred somewhere? Can you tell me that?
I believe the understanding or the interpretation was that this would limit it to 4 companies, and it doesn't. This special district would limit.
The gentleman who spoke
Right.
said that? Oh, okay.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I believe that covers all the cards in item 7. So we could move to approve and forward to the city council.
Correct.
Okay, we have a second on that? Welcome, Councilor Weiss, and I appreciate able to meet quorum here. So that'll be the action of this committee on item number 7. Next item, Roberto.
That would be item 9, Councilman. This is a correction ordinance, and it's in CD4.
Okay. Yeah, staff on this one?
Charlie Roush, Planning Department staff. This is basically a correction ordinance from the zoning consistency program in Hollywood, where one of these sub-area zone changes was incorrectly I don't want to say posted, but was incorrectly mapped. And what this ordinance does is basically correct that incorrect ordinance. This was originally sub-area number 145 in the Hollywood, which was originally zoned R4-2 and was proposed for down zoning to medium density and the R3-1XL zone. It was incorrectly platted as RD 1.5, which is about half the density of the R3 zone. And so this returns it to the R3 zone, which was the action of the Planning Commission and the City Council.
So it's a correction ordinance.
Pardon me?
This is just a correction then.
Yes, it is a correction ordinance.
All right. We have several speakers on this item. Renee, did you want to speak first or last?
I didn't fill out a card, but I'm happy to speak.
Well, it's up to you. I mean, okay.
I'll speak last.
All right. I'm fine. Okay. All right, here we go. Daniel Wright, Doug Haynes, Ed Hunt, Scott Campbell, and Matt Cooper. Daniel Wright.
Good afternoon, Daniel Wright on behalf of La Mirada Avenue Neighborhood Association of Hollywood. The association protests the failure of the city to proceed in accordance with law on this item. This item is a proposed amendment of the zoning ordinance to increase the legally adopted density from R 1.5 to 3. There is a claim that the zoning on sub-area 145 was erroneously adopted by City Council as R 1.5. Because it is a claimed error, the city planning staff has brought you a proposed amendment ordinance by simply placing the item on the Plum Committee with an expectation that it will go to council. We are told that the planning department processes these types of correction ordinances all the time. The problem, however, is that there is no process in the charter or LA Municipal Code for correction ordinances to short-circuit the charter mandated process. Charter Section 558B2, attached to our objection letter, states that when an amendment ordinance is initiated, the proposed ordinance order resolution shall be referred to the City Planning Commission for its report and recommendation. And there they will determine conformity with the general plan and whether or not it's still in the public interest. This process, required by charter for all amendments for land use ordinances, has no exceptions for claimed errors. In this case, there is a claim that the R3 listed on the Planning Commission recommendation years ago was erroneously changed to R1.5 on the zoning map. The council adopts the map, not the Planning Commission recommendation. So we do not know if the council office or the City Council made changes in between the recommendation by the Planning Commission and when it got adopted. The City Planning Commission is the place for this review of the facts, to sort this out and consider whether or not it's in conformity with the general plan and allow neighborhood council review. Based upon this problem, we would recommend that this matter be referred to the City Planning Commission for its report and recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Doug Haynes.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Doug Haynes, the La Mirada Avenue Neighborhood Association. And my neighbors and I consider this actually a very fascinating case. City planning staff states that this is just a correction, but we really don't know what happened 20 years ago. It may have been a deliberate decision by the councilman at the time to modify the recommendations of the Planning Commission. All we do know for certain is that 20 years have gone by and the people who live here have been established at RD 1.5 XL. This stretch of Fountain Avenue is where it's at its narrowest. There's no stopping allowed on either side of the street. It's only one of two places on Fountain Avenue where there's a four-way stop sign. So obviously it leads more credence to the assumption that there was a reason 20 years ago to make this block RD 1.5 because increased density would severely impact it. And we don't know what the environmental effect might be today because there's been no effort to do any environmental studies. And there's a broader issue involved, and that's because there's been no notification to the affected parties, and this was instigated by a developer. The potential purchaser of property on this block would have an advantage over the seller, since no one on this block is aware of the fact that it may be upzoned, so whoever purchases it will know that the value of the land has been increased. Again, I mean, we find this very fascinating, and we believe that it has to go through the proper channels, and if not, then perhaps it just should go through the courts and establish what is the proper way of handling all this, especially since the planning department says they do this all the time, and we believe it should not be done at all. It should go through proper review with notification so everyone's aware of what's happening, and so all parties are aware of what their zoning is. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Ed Hunt. Then Scott Campbell.
I'm Edward Hunt. I live at 4928 West Melrose Hill in Hollywood, and I'm on the board of Hollywood Studio District Neighborhood Council and chairman of the planning committee for my neighborhood association, Melrose Hill Neighborhood Association. And our ears perk up whenever we hear of things like this that are done in a stealth way. The city holds us to very high standards for notification and making sure that everybody knows what's going on, and we do our best to do that. And it takes a lot of time and expense, and I just think the city ought to hold up to their own standard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Scott Campbell. And then Matt Cooper.
Good afternoon. Scott Campbell, 1322 North McCadden Place in Hollywood. I am the Vice President of Central Hollywood Neighborhood Council and Chair of the Planning Committee. My only point here is that we did not receive direct notification about this change, and as far as I know, none of our neighbors know about it either. So that's my only concern, that it was not properly vetted through the Neighborhood Council and through the neighbors, and we would ask that this be postponed a decision until our neighbors can be properly notified.
Thank you, sir. Matt Cooper. Should be our final speaker.
Hi, I'm Matt Cooper, 6523 Fountain Avenue, Hollywood. I'm actually on a little different side, I guess, than you guys. I bought a piece of property and
Can you put this microphone closer to you? We can hear you.
I bought a piece of property on the north side of Fountain and Wilcox, and I retained somebody to tell me what the zoning was. And I guess there's a very clear paper trail that this was R3. So it's not really an amendment, it's just a correction of something that had always been R3 and somehow was incorrectly designated subsequent to that. So I don't know why, you go through a whole long process to just simply correct what was in what was in existence in the beginning. So, and I believe that it is already all documented in the paperwork. So, in fact, that's what the guy that I retained went through this all and found it. So, I'm happy to supply you.
Okay. Thank you. Renee?
Renee Weitzer for Councilman Tom LaBonge. I understand what the issue is now. We've had a lot of corrections from the AB 283 process over the years. Some of them are not as noticeable as others. In this particular case, if a person came in today to pull a building permit, they would pull it under RD 1.5. That's what the map shows, and that's where the correction has to be made with the zone. However, knowing all of this time for 20 years or whatever it was since AB 283, most people knew that it was RD 1.5, and now it seems like we're upzoning it, even though many years ago we actually downzoned it from R4 to R3, but nowadays it looks like we're upzoning it. So I'm not sure that we would really support this at this time, because the neighborhood councils and nobody really knew about this until it appeared on the agenda, and the fact that for 20 years people knew that it was RD 1.5.
Okay, so...
Frankly, I didn't know what I was going to do today, but after listening and talking to people, I understand the issue more now, and it seems sort of unfair, even though it's deemed a correction, to bring it up to R3 when most people thought it was RD 1.5.
But, okay.
So I don't know.
Okay, Renee, okay, wait, hold on.
I'm always
hold
up
on.
front.
Wait, don't go away now.
Okay.
We are right now at a point in committee where we have a decision to adopt this correction.
Right.
And according to staff report, it's a simple correction from an R.
Oh, you still have the floor.
Charlie, can you, Renee, before you say anything else, let's hear from the staff. To be clear what we are doing, and then I'm going to ask you to come back and tell me what you want to do. Because there's some legal procedures here that I think we need to follow.
Charlie Roush, Planning Department staff. First of all, one of the comments that were raised on this issue, and it took me a while to find out myself, but the case file is clear when I reviewed it about an hour ago. The sub-area number 145 basically extends along the north side of Fountain Avenue from approximately the commercial strip behind Highland Avenue over to to Wilcox. Sub-area 145 was once zoned R4-2. It was recommended for downzoning to R3-1XL. The community plan was amended to medium density. In fact, if you look at ZEMIS now, it'll show medium density on these particular properties and within RD 1.5 zone change. What happened was there was another sub-area 135 immediately to the north, which also took up the northern portion of the block that's bounded by Homewood, Wilcox, Fountain, and Seward Street. One half of it went to RD 1.5 on the northerly portion. Sub-area 145 on the southerly side went to the R3 zone, consistent with all of sub-area 145 on the north side of Fountain Avenue. This was the recommendation that was contained by the Planning Department staff. It went to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission action is in the case file. Planning Commission made no change in the staff recommendation. It then went on to the Planning and Land Use Management Committee and to the City Council. There is no record of any change by either Plum Committee nor by the City Council. All other changes are listed in the record, so there was no change. Merely what happened was at the time that it was being mapped by the Planning Department staff, they extended 135 to the south to cover a portion of 145 incorrectly. The record shows quite clearly all the way through that 145 in its entirety was to be the R3 zone.
R3.
Correct.
Now,
consistent with the community plan, which was medium density R3 zone.
Which is the basis for our general plan.
Correct.
Okay.
The zoning consistency program at that time did not make if they had wanted this to be an RD 1.5 zone, they would have made the plan low, medium 2, consistent with what they did with sub-area 135. There is absolutely no record in the record on this that shows that was an action either by the Planning Commission nor the City Council.
Okay. So it's a correction based on all the documents, planning action, Plum Committee, and Council, which occurred.
Correct.
How long ago did that occur?
I think ultimately these were all passed in 1988. It was initiated in 1986.
Okay, 20 years ago.
20 years.
Okay, so then I'm hearing from Renee that for 20 years, the community thought it was one thing when it really wasn't.
Right. So I have one other suggestion, perhaps, is instead of voting on it today, if we could continue it, and even though notices are not required, if the planning department could send notice to the people telling them that the zone is being changed after 20 years, I think that would be the right thing to do.
But that's misleading, Renee, because it's
Pardon
not. It's misleading because it's not being changed.
Yeah, but most
It's
people,
always been that zone.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you, but actually people out there don't look at the community plan, don't know all the planning legalese, and really don't understand why it's on the map one zone and someplace another zone. Most people don't look at that. They look at reality, what it is today, and it's RD 1.5. So anyhow, that was the only
I understand what you're saying, but my one of my concerns is our fiduciary responsibilities as a municipality when it comes to the property rights. Are we then denying the property owner access to their entitlement because of our mistake that we are now correcting? Madam Attorney, can you respond to that? In other words, we have the owner here who is under the impression that there's a correction being made to the rightful designation, which is R3, and for 20 years the city made a mistake in how it identified that piece, and now we're correcting it. Aren't we now vulnerable because we're denying that correction?
For the record, Sharon Cedar of Cardenas. State law requires that the city's zoning and general plan be consistent. In the 1980s, the council took an action as part of the zoning consistency program to down-plan this area from the R4, what was the consistent plan for R4, to medium density, which goes with the R3 zoning. And so it's incumbent upon the city to now correct its error and complete what it started at that time.
I want to respond to the council's request for more time to let the community know why it changed. Is that what you're asking for?
Well, I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with something to make it fair so that people would at least know that the zone is being changed, because people don't know this. They really don't. But I have a question. Is the map the law? What is the law? Is the map the law? If the map shows it as RD 1.5, is that what it is, no matter what the community plan shows?
Actually, it's the plan that the zoning has to be consistent with. And the plan shows it for a medium density, which is consistent with an R3 zone. As planning staff stated, when it's RD 1.5, that's low medium 2 density. So the plan, in order for this particular zone, RD 1.5, to be consistent with the plan would have to be changed. Because, see, and in 1988, the plan was changed, but it was changed to the R3.
So basically what we're doing here by correcting this is changing the map instead of changing the plan.
No, you're changing the zone to be consistent with the plan designation, which is the map.
Okay.
Which is consistent with the previous actions, as shown in the case file.
Well, I'd like to suggest, Councilman Weiss, that we follow the legal trail and decisions of previous actions from the Commission of the Council back in 1988 so that we can address the correction of the community plan, which is the basis by which we draw the map to make it whole, for lack of a better word. Would you want to second that? Okay. So that'll be the action of this committee. I appreciate that. And that'll be the action for this item.
So the action is to approve the correction
Yes,
orders.
approve the correction. Okay. Our next item, Roberto?
Next item is an appeal by Karen Gilman, and Mr. Robert Silverstein is a representative. It's relative to an action of the advisory agency which approved a track map for a new 33-unit condo project, and the planner is present.
Good morning, Councilman. Theodore Irving with the planning staff. I am to present the appeal of tentative track 68955. This is a 33-unit condominium.
Can I apologize, only because it's hard to hear your voice.
Okay.
And we have background information, sound. If you can speak into the microphone, we could probably hear you better.
Thank you. Okay, I'll do that. As I indicated, this is an appeal of tentative track 68955. This project is located at 5022 through 5036 Rosewood. This item first went to APC Central APC on December 11, 2007. At that time, the Area Planning Commission voted to deny the appeal in part and grant the appeal in part. When they granted the appeal in part, they modified 3 conditions. Condition number 4, which added some language that required that the council district be involved in the review of the landscaping plan. They modified condition number 9 that increased the ratio of trees that were being replaced from 1 to 1 to 1.5 2 to 1 ratio, so that you would wind up with 6 trees, and they added language that increased it from 24-inch box trees to 36-inch box trees. They also added language that required that the site and elevation plan be prepared showing the line of sight from the adjacent properties and the balconies, and they add those to their decision. Subsequent to the issuance of the APC decision, the matter was appealed to you, and that's what's before you now. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Let's hear from the appellant, the nature of the appeal. Karen Gilman, I believe.
Good afternoon, Mr. Reyes and Mr. Weiss. Thanks a lot for hearing our appeal today. I'd like to give you an overview of it. First, by way of introduction, in your pale green packets, you have letters from 20 neighbors and 6 neighborhood associations, plus the Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council. The 6 neighborhood associations represented there are the Larchmont Village Neighborhood Association, Windsor Square Association, Melrose Hill, St. Andrews Square Neighborhood Association, Windsor Village, and Fremont Place, plus the Greater Wilshire. And that's a good thing. All of us have worked together very studiously. We're very pleased to have made progress as we've worked together in community meetings with Council District 4's office and the developer, Mr. Pagnoni. We're very pleased about that, and we really think we've made some headway. Mr. Irving of the Planning Department just told you about the 3 modifications that Central Area Planning Commission granted at our November 11th appeal hearing. That's great. And we'd like to go forward and ask you to approve the further agreement, the further conditions that we support. Some of my neighbors will get up and address why those are important to us. We continue to be in favor of and be so grateful of Mr. Pagnoni's willingness to increase landscaping provisions. We asked for elimination of all the south-facing balconies. The agreement that Ms. Weitzer is going to give you is going to show you some agreement on only those facing single-family homes. I meant to trot out my exhibits. Our family is one of the abutting homes. We are back-to-back with the proposed property. This is the front of our house. We have a 70-foot wide backyard, so 4 properties back up to 4 properties in question where condominiums are proposed to be built to 3 stories. Okay. We have a hillside. We stopped talking about the potential failure of the slope because so many conditions are required of a developer. He doesn't want our hillside failing into his backyard any more than we want our backyard to fail into his backyard. So, okay, other neighbors will address things, but we have agreement on decreasing weekend construction hours to now be 9 to 3 on Saturday, hiding mechanical items on the rooftop. And as Mr. Irving mentioned about the existing 3 conditions that were already approved December 11th, Mr. Irving consulted with City Attorney on April 22nd and said it's perfectly natural for the Plum Committee to approve the existing ones and add some more. We thank you very much for your kind attention to all of this.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman. Now, I understand, Ms. Gilman, you have other speakers coming up on this item. Who are those speakers who'd like to come on up? Is it Winifred Moss? Robert Wishart? Daniel Wright? Mike Gilman? And Ed Hunt.
Is it possible to cede my time to Ms. Gilman?
I'm sorry?
Is it possible to cede my time to Ms.
No,
Gilman?
I'd like to just finish up.
Okay, I'm Rob Wishart, 403 North Bronson Avenue. I represent Larchmont Village on the Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council. I'm here today to talk about cumulative impact that your panel is addressing You talked about it last week. We're just trying to lessen the impact of Mr. Pagnoni's right to build on this property on his neighbors, especially the Gilmans. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me suggest this, and maybe Renee, if you feel comfortable with this, if you spoke to the conditions of where you're at, and maybe those who want to speak can hear what these conditions are, and will allow us to deal with the time issue and might impact or influence what they might say. So can we have Renee, I apologize, can we have Renee come on up, the council member representative, to speak to the conditions? That way you can know what's being proposed, and then if you feel compelled to speak some more, we'll go back to the speaker cards. Renee?
Thank you very much. For the record, Renee Weitzer representing Councilman Tom LaBonge. We've had several meetings with the developer and have agreed, the developer has agreed to some of the conditions that we've talked about. One was that all roof mechanical equipment is to be hidden and camouflaged, no balconies facing single-family homes, Saturday construction hours to be 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., council office to review grading plans with the community, developer to share elevations with council office, landscaping plan to the approval of the council office, and the developer has agreed to additional landscaping to be provided by him. That's about it. This is R3 zone property, and I'm happy that the developer has agreed to meet with us, and we've come to some concessions.
Okay. So these are 7 conditions that have been added to the development. Madam Attorney, did you want to say something?
For the record, Sharon Cedar of Cardenas, I would just suggest that condition number 6 be modified, that it should say landscaping plan to the approval of the advisory agency in consultation with the council office.
Okay, that'll be the proper wording. So that being said, we do have more speaker cards. Just by standing up, do these conditions address the concerns that you were going to speak to? Do you still feel compelled to speak? Come on up. Give us your name and address.
I'm Sandra Fleck, 4939 Elmwood Avenue, 90004. I am a renter. I know I'm low on the totem pole if anyone's concerned, but I've lived in my building for almost 12 years. I don't have any big plans on moving anytime soon. This development is going to be rear-facing not just single-family residences, but 3 multiple unit buildings. Mine, which is a duplex, triplex, a fourplex next door, and a fourplex next to that one. I was not able to be at the meeting that you held with the developer. My question would be, why are rear-facing balconies eliminated only for single-family residences and not for multiple unit dwellings, none of which have balconies in the back? Also, I just wanted to say for future reference that the overdevelopment of our little low-density neighborhood is, I know there are others that this is happening to, but in the almost 12 years that I've lived here, in the last maybe 5 or 6 years, there have been dozens of homes that have been torn down, and these 2- and 3-story condo and apartment buildings have gone up within a 3-block radius on 3 sides of this particular construction that we're talking about. The traffic is getting terrible, the air is getting bad, and I don't understand why it keeps being allowed. So just for later thought.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else compelled to speak? If you like. Oh wait, we do have, please come on up. Please come up, give us your name and address.
Good afternoon. My name is Winifred Moza, and I live at 617 North Gower Street in Los Angeles. I belong to and praiser of the Larchmont Village Neighborhood Association, and I'd like to succeed my minutes to Karen Gilman.
No, ma'am, I'm not either you speak or you give up your time, one or the other.
Pardon?
You can speak or give up your time.
I'm going to give up my time.
No, but I want to give it to anyone else. I mean, that's it. Either you speak or you don't. It's up to you. Okay, next speaker.
Just the developer.
Okay, please come on up.
Thank you, Chairman and committee members. My name is Paul Pignoni. I'm at 3176 Glendale Boulevard, Los Angeles 90039. I want to thank you for hearing me today. I have worked hard to address the concerns of the neighbors, and I am in general agreement with all of them, with the exception of the balcony issue. We do need to provide private open space for people, and that becomes very difficult without rear-facing balconies. I have agreed to no balconies to the south side facing single-family homes, and the reason for that is there are a number of multifamily buildings directly behind us that we do not feel are impacted by balconies. Their garages and carports are directly to the rear of their properties, therefore abutting our property. We also feel the additional landscaping that we have agreed to in a spirit of good faith. I've went through the original public hearing, I went through the appeal hearing, and even the changes at the appeal hearing, many of them were voluntary on my part. I want to do a good project, and I want to keep the neighbors happy. So really the only issue I have as far as what they're asking for additionally is this issue of the balconies, but I am willing to have no rear south-facing balconies abutting single-family homes. But I do need to provide balconies for the residents of my building, and that it just would make that impossible. The only other things I might suggest is that item number 4 on their list is council office and community to review the grading plans. I have no problem sharing the grading plans or any of my plans with anyone else. I just don't necessarily want them to be subject to their approval. As you know, grading plans are subject to a lot of scrutiny from the grading department. So I just want the language on these items to be clear.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Mr. Wright, did you want to speak? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was trying to minimize speakers by allowing Renee to give us the conditions, but come on up.
Indeed. I'm Daniel Wright on behalf of the concerned residents of Larchmont and Karen Gilman. Let the record reflect that our office has submitted detailed comments regarding the inadequacy of the mitigated negative declaration prepared for this project and the lack of a legally required notice given by the city for the hearing before the Central Area Planning Commission. We renew here all of those objections to the project and the CEQA compliance as a whole. The affected landowners only received 8 days' notice before the hearing before the Central Area Planning Commission when 10 days was required by law. Therefore, the action of the Central Area Planning Commission was void and the action taken here without jurisdiction. In the court, in the record are the reports of 2 experts hired by the appellants. The appellant's noise expert opined that the city has not examined the potentially significant noise impacts from construction in such close proximity to single-family homes, and that the proposed mitigation measures do not mitigate beneath the level of significance those impacts. The city nor the developer have offered nothing to counter this expert opinion in the record. Also, the appellants submitted a report concluding that one of the houses proposed for demolition is eligible for historic designation. While the Planning Department's Cultural Resources Commission voted to deny such status, that conclusion is not binding and underscores the existing controversy over the potential significant negative impact that requires preparation of an EIR to resolve. Despite our objections, which we do not waive, to these inadequacies in CEQA compliance, there have been some discussions with the council office, the developer, and the appellants. While the appellants support all of the agreed upon modifications of the project that you've heard discussed so far, it is still not mitigated beneath the level of significance of the impacts identified in our previous objection letter. Our acceptance of the proposed modifications is not an acceptance of the modified project. Finally, we object to the City Council considering this approval today because it's not clear that the developer has site control. We're understanding that one of the houses has fallen out of escrow. For these reasons, we object to jurisdiction today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ed Hunt. And Mike Gilman, our last two speakers.
I'm Edward Hunt, again, 4928 West Melrose Hill for the Melrose Hill Neighborhood Association, and just wanted to say I support the appeal and that I'm delighted to see all these neighborhood groups in the Melrose corridor working together across neighborhood council lines and across council district lines. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Our last speaker, Mike Gilman. Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, for all the speakers, viewed the case. So we have a motion to grant in part the appeal with additional conditions as stated by District 4 and the language that's been submitted for the record by Ms. Schweitzer, Renee Schweitzer from the council office. I'll second that.
And the change from the city attorney.
And the change from the city attorney. So that'll be the action of this committee. Thank you. Next time, Roberto.
Public comment, Councilman.
Didn't we have item 11? Are folks here for still item 11, correct? It was continued. Okay. Would you like to speak still? Please come on up.
Hello, my name is Karen Knowles. I'm a little nervous. I'm going to read a little bit, and I'd like to speak today because I'm recovering from my shoulder, which I broke in March. I'm not sure I'll be able to be here in June, but I will submit something. My address, 7055 Texoma Avenue, Van Nuys, or Lake Balboa. I currently reside in the house where I grew up, and I have lived in this neighborhood on and off since 1951, when my father purchased our home. I oppose the proposed zoning change to allow both a house and multi-story apartment units built behind on the alleyway on the residential lot at 17610 Sherman Way for public safety reasons. Caldas Avenue seems already at its maximum for street parking, and I simply do not believe that the apartment residents will confine their parking to the on-site spots. Could you please tell me if the Los Angeles Fire Department has an opinion on multi-story apartment housing built on alleyways with no street access? I walked the alley this morning. There is no fire hydrant on that alley either for a multi-story apartment. I don't oppose residential development per se, just the fact that this will allow both a house and an apartment to be built behind it. There are two houses at opposite ends of the alleyway entry at 17539 and 17551 in Nadia Way. They have each enlarged their detached garages to be living spaces. I don't know if that was done with permits or as legal has been done. If the owner of this property wants to build a single-story enlarged apartment in his detached garage, I'm for that. No problem there. But I just wonder, do you have these same plans for all the alleyways that line Sherman Way? And is the alleyway eventually going to be named a street? Because that's what it will become. And, is this only planned for our neighborhood, or would you vote for it in your own neighborhood? Sorry, I'm so nervous.
Thank you, Ms. Holmes.
I'd like to hand my letter in, if I could.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Holmes. Anybody else here? This has been continued to June. But I know folks came here for this item. I'd like to come on up and give us your name.
If I speak today, can I still speak on the 17th?
We're going to keep it for one time, so we'll... Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Did you want to speak, sir?
Yes, my name is Selwyn Ginsburg. I'm the one with...
Please give us your name again.
Selwyn Ginsburg.
This is for item 11, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we're going to continue this till June.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to be here and make sure there would be a continuation.
Selwyn Ginsburg?
Selwyn Ginsburg.
Please give us your address.
16060 Ventura Boulevard, number 105, Encino, California, 91436.
Okay.
And it's going to be postponed to the 17th? Is that?
Yes.
Fine, sir.
Okay. That's it? All right. All right, folks. So we'll continue this to that time. Anything else, Roberto? All right, we have one card for public comment. I believe it's Mr. Daniel Wright.
Daniel Wright, 467 Crane Boulevard, speaking personally. As this committee knows, you will be hearing eventually something regarding the expansion of the Autry National Center in Griffith Park. And as we delivered to you at our last meeting, a complaint filed with the State Board of Accountancy, which reveals and emphasizes that the Autry used a misleading balance sheet to get its hands on the assets of the Southwest Museum, that it has never recorded a corresponding liability or asset to support two-thirds of its assets on its balance sheet. And it calls into serious question the promise made to a lot of council members and the mayor that they actually have the financial wherewithal to develop the existing Southwest Museum as a cultural center or education center. What I am going to make available for the reading pleasure of your staff, because it is 50 pages long, is the Montana Supreme Court decision from April 29th of this year, where a museum board in Montana voted to close a family museum for which they had fiduciary duties. And they claimed, oh gosh, it just wasn't feasible to continue to run this museum anymore. Very similar to the arguments you've heard from the Autry National Center. And guess what the Montana Supreme Court did? It removed the entire board of directors of this museum and ordered that a new board be installed that's dedicated to the fiduciary duties. There are these duties owed to the Southwest Museum too. I will share this with your staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Anybody else here for public comment? Sir?
None.
Just kidding. Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.